There is no silver lining here, but what can we learn to prevent somebody else from making this horrible decision?
The point is to reduce our rates of suicide death and to come up with more personalized individual approaches. The more we understand the risks for different people, the more we can intervene on those specific risks.
So I think the scientific research offers some hope that things could get better over time. We're looking at nutritional supplements that we think might correct some of the deficits caused by low oxygen. And preliminarily, a lot of that research is really promising. One marker of brain energy is something called phosphocreatine. So that's the creatine that you get from a nutritional supplement.
Creatine is used by 62% of all high school football players in the United States, and so it's had its trial by fire. Creatine monohydrate increases brain energy stores, and it's the most extensively studied nutritional supplement in terms of effects on the brain.
Because low oxygen produces low brain energy. The creatine that we're using basically gives you a bigger battery so that you could store more energy when you manage to produce it, and then that can drive brain processes when you need it.
One of the things I'm excited about is we're looking at the impact of novel therapeutics for depression at altitude. So what we've been doing is feeding these animals bioenergetic compounds like creatine and can actually improve energetic function. My next goal is to actually look at several different bioenergetic compounds in this animal model to see if we could actually come up with compounds to target for depression in people at altitude.
And then the other thing is 5-hydroxytryptophan, or 5-HTP. The way the whole tryptophan hypothesis works is you eat tryptophan from turkey or something else, and then it gets converted to 5-HTP, and then 5-HTP gets converted to serotonin in your brain in an oxygen-independent step. So if we give people more 5-HTP, then potentially they can produce more serotonin even though they don't have any oxygen.
30 years ago, we thought that the way that you treated suicide was to treat depression. Not everybody who comes in with suicidal thoughts and plans is depressed. One of the things we need to do is make sure that if you go to get help for your suicidality, the person who you're seeking help from is equipped to help you.
We're all living a more similar life than we realize. A lot of people feel lonely, and a lot of people feel depressed. A lot of people feel anxious.
Yeah, and if nobody puts out there when they're feeling sad or lonely, then those normal feelings that we all have then become something to be shameful or feel shameful of. And then you don't have anybody to talk to. We're trying to find ways to increase the number of mental health providers here in Wyoming. We need to make sure that that provider understands suicide. So we need to learn how to assess and then how to treat suicidality for everybody who we're meeting with.
Part of what I do is, getting people to be vulnerable and risky in a different way from an emotional standpoint. A lot of people are very familiar with and comfortable with the physical risk that comes with being in a frontier state. My job is to help people get a little more comfortable with the emotional risk of opening up.
All right, we'll see you soon.
We're taught to be independent, but sometimes with mental health, the answer isn't to fight through it on your own, but to find resources and find tribe. Anything that gets people together to realize that they're not alone is going to help this sense of loneliness and isolation that comes from living in a frontier state.
One of the things that people can do to reduce risk of suicide, this is absolutely shown in the research, is developing a sense of community.
Anything that helps people feel involved or connected to anybody can be useful. So even having a short phone call with a friend is a step in the right direction. But really, it can be as simple as meeting a friend for coffee. You don't even have to talk about your problems, just having that interpersonal connection.
Generally speaking, being a member of a church Being part of a religious community is really protective against suicide and other mental disorders because you have a sense of community, you have a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose. Having good, intimate relationships with supportive, caring people, having activities that put you in touch with other people face to face.
I believe that folks need an avenue or a venue or an opportunity or way to talk about what they're struggling with.
And that's the problem with modern society, is that we can hide so easily, right? So someone with depression is really just saying, I can't do this on my own. That's a societal wound, and it needs a societal remedy. We can't put more pressure on the individual to fix themselves, right? That's part of the problem, is we're saying, this is all on you.
The stigma associated with mental disorders, including depression and suicide, is due to the idea that they are a personal failing or the result of some personal failing. You're not trying hard enough, you're not a good person. But if we can show that there's a biological basis for it, then it gives people a sense that they're not really at fault, right? It's things outside of them.
So we do this work not to say everyone should immediately move to the beach, but precisely because if we understood the phenomenon better, we think we would come up with better treatments. And our treatments are imperfect. We've known all of these things for a long period of time, but what we haven't had is a convenient way to use evidence-based treatments to improve outcomes, and that's what this is about. It's an opportunity for researchers to make a difference.
We count on science to answer our complex problems in the world, and I don't know that we have very many more complex problems than why an individual dies by suicide. And then we can use science to study our treatments, so we can be better equipped to design interventions to help the folks who really need it, and then test those interventions to make sure that they're working.
When you learn about the neurobiology of what's happening in your brain, you just have space to open your peripheral vision to see options and opportunities that you may have missed before.
Suicide is a community level event. It is a state level event, but also that there are things beyond our individual control that we don't really fully understand. Those are things that we can explore scientifically and to do better suicide prevention, because that's where I find hope in all of this, and make sure that the people who are experiencing a crisis can find it also.